At 41, I was the best chess player in the world. At 41, someone put a bullet through my skull. At 41, I became Zero again. Only this time, Zero was 3 days old and lying in a diaper. The ceiling of the maternity ward is white, slightly yellowed near the air vent. A small crack runs from the light fixture toward the window, maybe 20 centimeters, branching once at the end. I stare at it for a long time. It's the only thing I can stare at. My neck doesn't hold yet. I don't panic. I've had worse positions on the board. I run through what I know. I'm alive. I'm in a body that can't grip, can't speak, can't control its own bladder. My previous body is dead. I don't know where. I don't know how they found it. I don't know if anyone came to the funeral. What I know is this: the mind inside this infant skull is intact. 41 years of pattern recognition, opening theory, endgame technique, every game I ever played, every face I ever memorized across a tournament board, complete. Everything is complete. All right, assess the position. What do I have? What don't I have? What's the father's name is Kenji. He appears every morning and every evening without fail. He has a warm face and a slightly worried look, as if he's always just remembered something he forgot to do. He brings flowers when he comes to pick up Mother and me from the hospital. Sunflowers, which he clearly chose himself and not from a list. He talks to me even though I can't answer. He explains things. The route from home to the park. Why the neighbor's dog barks at night. What a Fuseki is in. Go. He plays Go on Tuesday and Thursday evenings with a neighbor named Ogura. I hear them through the wall. Kenji loses more than he wins but doesn't get upset. He says losing is interesting. I note that. The mother's name is Aiko. She is precise and slightly anxious, and writes everything in a small brown notebook she keeps in her apron pocket. Feeding times, weight, which side I slept on. She Googles every sneeze. She reads 3 parenting books simultaneously, and marks them with color-coded sticky notes. She worries about everything with the efficiency of someone who has already categorized the worry and filed it. On the 3rd night, she can't sleep and sits by my crib and just watches me. I watch her back. She doesn't know that. Good people. I got lucky with the board. At 14 months, I stack blocks into towers. Not random stacking. Correct, towers. Largest base, decreasing upward. Stable center of gravity. The pediatrician watches me do it twice and says to my parents, "Your son may have an unusually high IQ, worth keeping an eye on." My mother writes it in the notebook. I think, possibly. At 2, I find an old Go board in the storage closet, the one Kenji uses on Tuesday evenings. I pull it out by the edge. He finds me sitting next to it, running my fingers along the grid line. He watches from the doorway for almost a minute before he says anything. The look on his face is difficult to describe. Something between delight and the early stages of vertigo. 3 years old, a Saturday in October. Kenji is at the low table with his friend Daisuke, not Go. Today, they have a chess set. Old wooden, a few pieces replaced with mismatched substitutes. They have beer. The TV is on in the background, but neither of them is watching it. I'm on the floor nearby with a toy car. I'm not playing with the toy car. Move 14. Daisuke's knight is on f6, and there it is, the hanging piece, completely undefended. And if Kenji moves his knight to e5, he forks the queen on d7 and the rook on c8 simultaneously. Daisuke loses material. It's a simple tactic, the kind of thing I would have spotted in under 2 seconds at any point in my adult life. Kenji doesn't see it. He looks at the board for 11 seconds, then he reaches for a pawn. I put down the toy car. I crawl to the table, pull myself up on Kenji's knee and climb up. He starts to say something. Haru, don't touch. But I'm already reaching. I pick up his knight. I set it on e5. Fork. Silence. Daisuke stares at the board. He traces the attack line with his finger. Queen, rook, knight covering both. He looks at the knight. He looks at me. Kenji, yeah. Your son just forked me. Kenji's hand is still halfway to my shoulder from where he was about to pull me back. It stops there. He looks at the position. He looks at it for a long time. Haru. His voice is very quiet. Do you know what you just did? I look at the board. I look at him. I pick up the toy car. The next 2 hours are not comfortable for Daisuke. They reset the board. Daisuke plays white, I play black. He opens e4, I respond e5. He plays the Italian. Simple, solid, the kind of opening you use when you want a calm game and time to think. He mates himself on move 19. They reset again. This time Daisuke tries the Rui Lopez. More theory, more structure. He's trying to reach a position he knows. I steer us out of it on move 11 with an unusual knight maneuver, and the position becomes mine from that point forward. Move 23, checkmate. Daisuke sits back in his chair. He looks at the ceiling. He looks at me. He looks at Kenji. Best of 7? He says. The final score is 0-7. By the last game, Daisuke isn't playing for the win. He's playing to see how long he can survive. The answer is 31 moves. That's the longest game of the session. Kenji doesn't say anything until Daisuke puts his coat on to leave. Then, same time next week? Yeah, Daisuke says. He looks at me one more time from the doorway. Bring the kid. That night after Aiko puts me to bed, I hear them through the wall. Kenji's voice, low, then Aiko's, then quiet, then Kenji again. I look at the ceiling. The crack near the vent is still there. 20 centimeters, branching once, white to move. Always white moves first. First move is always white's. All right, let's begin. Kenji doesn't sleep that night. I know because I can hear him. The apartment is small, 3 rooms, thin walls. He moves from the bedroom to the kitchen at around 2 in the morning. The chair scrapes against the floor. The refrigerator opens and closes. Then silence for a long time. Then the soft sound of something being set on the table. I think it's the chess set. He's replaying the games in his head. I did the same thing after every tournament, lying in a hotel room, replaying every moment, looking for what I'd missed. He doesn't know he's doing what champions do. He just can't sleep. In the morning, he comes into my room before breakfast, crouches down to my level, looks at me carefully, like he's checking whether what he saw last night was real. "Haru," he says, "can we play again?" I go to the table. We play 12 games. Kenji loses all 12. He's not terrible. He knows the rules. He has basic instincts. He understands the concept of controlling the center. He's just a man playing against someone who has spent 40 years doing nothing else. On the 13th game, he pauses before the first move and says, "Wait, I want to try something different." He opens with NF3, then G3. The Nimzo Indian setup, unusual, non-standard, the kind of opening that throws off players who rely on memorized lines. I take 8 moves to dismantle it, not by force, by logic. Each move cuts off one of his plans until there are no plans left, only a position that is simply, quietly, mathematically worse. On move 21, he looks at the board and doesn't reach for a piece. He sits back. He looks at his hands. He looks at me. Then he closes the board. "Haru," very quiet, "do you want to play in tournaments?" I look at him. I nod. He nods back. Once, like a decision has been made that was already made the moment he asked. That evening I hear him and Aiko talking after they think I'm asleep. Her voice is worried, measured, working through it the way she works through everything, methodically, with the notebook open on her knee. His voice is calm in a way it usually isn't. Not the calm of someone who doesn't care, the calm of someone who has already decided and is now explaining. He doesn't move the pieces, Kenji says. He reads the position. There's a difference. A pause. Then Aiko, "He's 4 years old." "I know, Kenji. I know." Standing in the hallway in the dark, I listen. Kenji sees something real. He doesn't know what to call it, can't frame it in any way that makes complete sense, but he sees it clearly enough to stake something on it. That's harder than it sounds. Most people see something they can't explain and decide they must have been wrong. I feel something I haven't felt yet in this new life. It takes me a moment to identify it. Gratitude. I go back to bed. Over the following weeks, Kenji starts leaving work early, then taking unpaid leave. Then 3 months after that Saturday with Daisuke and the chess set, he submits his resignation. He frames it as temporary. He is not thinking about temporary. He buys books, proper ones, Silman's Endgame Manual, Nimzowitch is My System, 3 volumes of annotated Grandmaster games. He reads them in the evenings and then comes to me and explains what he's learned, moving pieces slowly on the board, narrating his reasoning. He is explaining things I understood before he was born. I listen, every evening without interrupting, without showing impatience. This is our ritual, lamp on the table, board between us, his voice working through positions, my finger on the piece when he asks where I'd move. He asks a lot. He's genuinely trying to understand, not just to participate. That matters. Here white loses a tempo, he says one evening, tapping a square. "Can you see why?" I point to the bishop on c1, blocked by its own pawn chain. 2 moves to free it, by which point black has consolidated. Kenji stares at it for a moment, then shakes his head slowly, not in disagreement. In the particular way, that means he's recalibrating something. "Someday," he says, "explain to me how you see all of it at once." I look at the board. I don't answer. Someday, I think. Not yet. The chess club rejects us on a Tuesday in March. Minimum age 5. The woman on the phone says, "Those are the rules." Kenji argues politely for 6 minutes. "The rules," the woman says again. He hangs up. Looks at me across the table. "There's a district open tournament next month," he says. "Any age. Want to go?" The tournament is held in a community center on a Saturday. 41 participants, mostly adults, a few teenagers, 2 kids around 12 who are clearly the youngest entrants anyone expected. The organizer does a visible double take when Kenji registers me. He checks the form twice. He looks at my height relative to the table. He says nothing. My first opponent is a 40-year-old civil engineer named Yamamoto. He has a steady, careful look and sets his pieces with the precision of someone who takes the game seriously. When he sees me sit down across from him, his expression goes through several stages very quickly, ending somewhere between bemused and apologetic, like he feels bad for what's about to happen. He thinks it's going to happen to me. Italian game. He plays solidly, controls the center, develops his pieces correctly. On move 14 he misses a pin, and on move 17 the pin becomes decisive. Checkmate on move 23. Yamamoto looks at the board, traces the final position, sets the pieces up to the moment of the pin, and looks at it again, making sure. He stands up, shakes my hand with full seriousness, like I'm an adult, walks away without saying anything. 6 more games, 6 more wins. The room starts paying attention somewhere around game 4. There's a shift in the ambient noise, people drifting toward our table between their own moves, standing a little too casually near the wall. Game 7, the last one of the day. Suzuki Taro, the district champion, 55 years old. Tournament winner, 6 of the last 8 years. He sits across from me with the composed expression of someone who has been in many high-pressure games and has learned not to underestimate positions. He doesn't look at me like an anomaly. He looks at me like an opponent. I respect that. The game lasts 40 minutes, longer than anything else today. He fights for every square, defends accurately, doesn't give me cheap tactics. I have to earn it, slow maneuvering, grinding down his queenside, converting into a rook ending where the technique is clean, but the execution requires patience. I win on move 58, rook and pawn endgame. The pawn promotes, and there's nothing he can do about it. 6 moves before it happens. Suzuki stares at the board after the game for a long time. The kind of stare that isn't looking for a mistake. It's looking for an explanation. He lifts his eyes to me. How old are you? 4. Long pause. Is your father here? Kenji is already walking over from the side of the room where he's been standing for the last 20 minutes, with his arms crossed, and an expression I've never seen on him before, pride and bewilderment at the same time. Like he's watching something he knew was coming but didn't actually believe until right now. Yes, I say, he's here. Suzuki Taro doesn't just shake Kenji's hand and leave. He takes us to Ueno Park. He explains on the way that there's a man there. Every weekend, same bench by the fountain, same folding table, same battered chess set with a thermos of green tea beside it. He's been there for years. People come specifically to beat him, tournament players, serious amateurs, a few professionals who've heard the rumors, and they all leave having lost. Suzuki himself tried twice, 5 years apart, lost both times. His name is Ogata. Suzuki says Ogata Shiro. He was in the top 20 in Japan in the 80s, retired, disappeared, ended up in that park. I don't know why he stays there. I see him before we reach the bench, 70-something compact, wearing a gray cardigan despite the October cold being mild. He has the posture of someone who has sat at chessboards his whole life, slightly forward, elbows light, hands relaxed. He's mid-game against a man in his 40s who is leaning over the board with intense concentration, like leaning closer will show him something he's missing. I sit on the bench 10 meters away and watch. Move 22. Ogata could end this right now. There's a queen maneuver, QD6 threatening the rook and cutting off the king's escape, mate in 3 from there. He doesn't play it. He plays a rook to E1 instead, developing a threat he doesn't need, letting the game breathe another 20 moves. He's not trying to win, he's playing with his food. Good technique. Classical style, solid, principled, clearly built on Nimzowitsch and Petrov, the kind of foundation that was elite in 1985. His opening repertoire hasn't moved since then. If I get him into a Najdorf, he'll play the old main lines, the ones where theory has moved 40 deep since he last looked. He doesn't know the position is already lost before it begins. He just doesn't know it yet. The game finishes on move 45. The man in his 40s tips his king, shakes Ogata's hand, and walks away with the expression of someone reassessing their hobbies. Ogata pours tea from his thermos. He notices me on the bench. He waves, casual, like he's inviting someone to cross the street. Come on then, little one, let's play. I walk over, sit down across from him. The table comes to my chest. He looks at me with open amusement, the kind that isn't unkind, just genuine. He's seen a lot of things at this bench. A 4-year-old is new. He reaches for his king's pawn, sets it on E4. The most natural first move in chess. Classical, central, inviting. I play C5, the Sicilian. The amusement on Ogata's face shifts. Just slightly, the corners of his mouth stay up, but something in his eyes goes quiet and alert, like a door closing somewhere behind them. Interesting, he says mostly to himself. He plays NF3, I play D6. He plays D4. The game is settling into the Najdorf structure, and I can already see where his preparation ends. He'll go for the old main line, B2 and 00, the system every player of his generation learned. Solid, safe, 30 years out of date. On move 7 I deviate. A sideline that became theoretically relevant around 2015, sharpened further by engine analysis through 2019. Ogata wouldn't know it exists. He pauses for the first time, 3 minutes on a single move, before continuing. The next 19 moves are quiet. There's no drama in them, no visible fireworks. Ogata's position doesn't collapse, it compresses. Each move he makes is reasonable, even good by older standards, and each move slightly worsens something, a pawn that needed to stay back. A bishop that can no longer reach the king side, a rook that has nowhere useful to go. Move 26. I stop and look at the position, then I make my move. Ogata looks at the board, his hand moves toward a piece, stops, moves toward another piece, stops. He tries 3 different plans in his head, and I watch him work through each one. You can see it in the stillness, the tiny adjustments in his posture as each option closes. Every move makes it worse. There's no good move. There is no neutral move. Every legal option damages something, zugzwang. He sits back, looks at the board for a long time, then at me. Do you know what zugzwang is? Any move worsens your position, I say. So it would be better not to move, but the rules don't allow that. Ogata looks at me. He picks up his king and sets it on its side on the table. The old way of resigning, not knocking it over, just laying it down gently. Silence. The fountain runs behind us. Someone in the distance is walking a dog. Then Ogata laughs. Not politely, not the short laugh people use when something surprises them. A real one from somewhere lower, the kind that takes a moment to arrive. He laughs for almost 10 seconds and then wipes his eyes with the sleeve of his cardigan. Where did you learn the Najdorf? I've always known it. He looks at me for a long moment, then at Kenji, who has been standing 6 meters away, doing an impression of someone who is fine. Your son? Ogata says yes. Kenji says, sit down both of you, I have tea. 3 weeks later, Ogata goes to the Japan Chess Association office on a Tuesday morning. He goes alone and he doesn't tell us in advance. The director's name is Nakamura Hiroshi. Ogata tells the receptionist he needs 5 minutes. He gets 12. He explains that he has played a 4-year-old child who beat him cleanly in a serious game using theoretical lines he had never encountered. He says the child should be allowed to enter rated professional tournaments. He says the minimum age of 6, established in 1962, should be revisited. Nakamura listens with the patient courtesy of someone who is certain he does not have to act on what he is hearing. He says the rules are the rules. He says they exist for good reasons. He thanks Ogata for coming. Ogata stands at the door on his way out. The boy will come himself, he says. Nakamura says nothing. The following Saturday, Kenji drives me to the association building. He has the expression he gets when he's committed to something and nervous about it at the same time. Jaw slightly set, hands careful on the wheel, radio off. In the lobby, I ask the receptionist for a piece of paper and a pen. She gives them to me, curious. I write one sentence, fold the paper once, and ask her to give it to Director Nakamura. She reads it first. I don't mind. She goes upstairs. 5 minutes later, Nakamura comes down himself. He is a compact man in his 50s, careful suit, the expression of someone who controls his reactions professionally. He looks at me, he looks at Kenji, he looks at me again, specifically at my height relative to the reception desk. Do you understand what a professional chess tournament is? He asks. Time control, ELO rating system, Swiss system for qualifying rounds, or round robin for finals. I understand. He is quiet for exactly 1 second. Then he nods toward the stairs. His office has a chess set on the side table, decorative but complete. He moves it to the desk. We play. I open with e4. He plays the French defense, solid, slightly passive, built for endurance. He wants a long game, time to assess. On move 12, he misses a structural weakness I've been building toward since move 6. On move 18, I sacrifice the bishop on h6. Not immediately obvious, the kind of sacrifice that looks extravagant until you trace the lines 3 moves deeper. He takes. I open the h-file checkmate on move 27. Nakamura doesn't move for a while. He looks at the position the way people look at things they need to accept but haven't yet. Then, the bylaws will be reviewed at the next council meeting. You may participate from the age of 4, as a personal precedent. I nod. I stand up. I shake his hand, which he accepts with a slight look of unreality. Through the glass wall of the office, Kenji is standing in the hallway where the receptionist pointed him to wait. When I push the door open, he's looking at me, and whatever he sees in my expression, calm, fine, done, something leaves him all at once. He sits down on the floor of the hallway with his back against the wall. His legs just go. He puts his face in his hands. I stand in the doorway and let him have a minute. The first official tournament is held in a sports hall in Shinjuku on a Sunday in February. 40 participants. Mixed age, open category rated. The youngest entrant in the tournament's 11-year history, according to the organizer, had been 9. The organizer says this while looking at me. I'm 4 years and 4 months old. I come up to approximately the middle of the registration table. Kenji fills out my entry form while I stand next to him, and look at the room, the rows of boards, the clock setups, the way the fluorescent light hits the playing surface. The same slightly antiseptic quality every serious tournament room has. The smell of concentration. 3 people photograph me before the first round begins. By round 3, there are phones out along every wall. I don't look at the phones, I look at the board. White, first move clean position. Begin. My first opponent opens with the Queen's Gambit, a sound classical choice. He is 38, has a rating of 1840, and plays with the measured confidence of someone who has won his share of club tournaments and knows what he's doing. He offers the pawn on d4. I decline, take the solid route, steer into a structure I can control. On move 19, he allows a knight outpost on e5 that he can't dislodge. The position suffocates slowly. Move 31, checkmate. He shakes my hand and stares at the board for a moment before walking away. 5 rounds, 5 wins. The longest game is 34 moves. I don't win through opponent errors. There are no blunders to exploit, no pieces left hanging. I win by finding the correct move each time, by building positions where the correct move is mine and the correct response is unavailable. Average engine evaluation at the moment of resignation is +4 across all 5 games. That's not luck, that's structure. After the 5th round, the organizer finds Kenji at the side of the room. We've never had a result like this, he says, at any age. Kenji nods. He's holding a paper cup of coffee he hasn't drunk. He's been standing the same way for 4 hours, arms slightly crossed, weight on his left foot, watching every game from a distance that's close enough to see the board and far enough not to interfere. He worked out that distance in round 1 and kept it exactly. A journalist from the Shinjuku local paper writes a piece, It runs the following Thursday. Small item at the bottom of the sports section. 4-year-old phenomenon claims Open City Championship. The national sports paper picks it up 2 days later. Same headline, slightly longer. A photo that Kenji took permission for on the day. Bottom of page 11. Kenji buys 3 copies. He puts one in a manila folder that I notice is already labeled on the tab in his neat handwriting. He has a system. He's been building one this whole time. We have a training schedule now though. Calling it that makes it sound more formal than it is. Mornings, openings. Kenji found a good annotated collection and reads it aloud, moving pieces, explaining the ideas. I listen as if I'm learning. I'm not learning. I remember all of it, have known it for decades, but I listen carefully, because how Kenji explains things tells me what he understands, and understanding what he understands matters. Afternoons, endgames, Silman's manual, the Dvoretsky, Capablanca's classic endings worked through one by one. Kenji sets up the positions and asks me what I'd do. I show him. He writes down the move and looks up what the book says. They match consistently, which stops surprising him around the 3rd week. Evenings, Ogata. Ogata is at the bench in Ueno every day now, not just weekend. He brings 2 thermoses, tea for himself, warm milk for me, which I accept without commenting on. We play for an hour, sometimes 2. He cannot beat me. He knows this. He comes anyway. What Ogata gives me is resistance. Not the right moves, not coaching, just a player who fights back seriously, who doesn't collapse in 20 moves, who makes me solve actual problems instead of cleaning up errors. I use the time to explore positions I find interesting, lines I haven't tested in a long time, endgames with unusual material imbalances, defense structures that require a specific kind of patience. One evening in April I reach a position where I could close the game cleanly. A knight maneuver, 3 moves, it's over. I don't play it. I redirect the knight to a different square and keep the game open, steering us into a complex rook ending that will take another 25 moves to resolve. Ogata watches. After a few moves he says, "You could have finished this 20 moves ago, I know. Then why?" I'm interested in the position, not the win. He looks at me for a long time. The fountain runs. A couple walks past with a stroller. Ogata picks up his tea. Who taught you to think like that? I move the rook to d4. No one. He says nothing for a moment. In 40 years of chess, he says slowly, I have met maybe 3 people who played for the position rather than the result. All 3 were world class. He pauses. You're 4, almost 5. Almost 5, he repeats. He sounds like he's deciding something. All right, let's keep playing. The second city tournament is in March. 44 participants. I win it. The third is in May. 48 participants. I win that too. The pattern becomes visible. Not just that I win, but how. No game decided by a tactical blunder. Every win positional or technical. Every clock managed cleanly. The performances look the same from outside regardless of the opponent's rating. After the third tournament, a woman approaches Kenji at the exit. She represents a prefecture-level sports development program. She has a business card and a polite urgency about her. She says there are programs for exceptional youth. She says the word prodigy twice. She says there might be funding available. Kenji takes the card. He looks at it on the train ride home. He looks at it the way he looks at chess positions he's not sure about. What do you think? He asks me. What does she want in exchange for the funding? He looks at me. Then he puts the card in his pocket without answering. And when we get home, he puts it in the folder, not in the main section, in the back pocket, where he puts things he hasn't decided about yet. I note that he's learning. The regional tournament draws players from 8 cities across the Kanto area, 42 participants. Best of the region rated serious. The kind of field where an 1,800 player doesn't expect to make the final rounds, and a 2,100 considers himself a contender. I'm the only person under 25. I'm 5 years old. The organizers give me a cushion to sit on so I can reach the board comfortably. I accept it without comment. 7 rounds of Swiss. I win the first 6 without reaching move 30 in any of them. By the 6th round, the other players have stopped pretending not to watch. There's a particular quality to the attention in a tournament room when something anomalous is happening, a shift in where people look during their own games. A longer pause at the results board after each round. The 7th round is the final. My opponent is already seated when I arrive. Mizuki Ayako, 28 years old, regional champion 3 of the last 4 years. She has a rating of 2247 and the posture of someone who has won a lot of important games and knows what that feels like. She's dressed practically dark jacket, hair pulled back, no jewelry. Her clock setup is precise. She adjusts it twice before I sit down. When I sit down, she looks at me. There's professional respect in her expression. She's done her homework, seen the results, doesn't underestimate on principle. But under that, faint and controlled, amusement. The quiet kind that says she's heard about the phenomenon and believes it but hasn't fully processed what it means to be sitting across from it. She'll process it during the game. I know Mizuki's style, not from watching her this week. I knew it before this life. She was talked about in Japanese chess circles when I was Kiroyu Tanaka. Not famous but notable, aggressive, sacrificial, a player who dismantles positional chess by introducing chaos and then navigating it better than her opponent. She doesn't play for the objectively best position. She plays for the position where her opponent drowns and she swims. The rule against her is simple. Don't swim. Stay on dry land. We shake hands. The clocks start. The first 10 moves are theory. She plays the King's Indian attack, a flexible system that keeps her options open. I match it carefully, not conceding anything, not provoke anything. She's building pressure slowly, steering us toward the kind of position she likes. On move 11, she lifts her knight from f3 and places it on g5. Then she takes her hand away. The knight is hanging. Offered. It's not a mistake, it's the sacrifice, the one I was waiting for since I saw her name on the bracket. She gives up the knight for 2 pawns and open lines against my king. Formally, materially, I'm ahead. In practice, I'm walking into a storm. She smiles. Very slightly. She's done this before, and she knows what comes next. The opponent takes the material, feels clever, and then spends the next 15 moves trying to find something to do with their extra piece while she tears the king side apart. I take the knight, then I sit back and look at the board for 4 minutes. It is not a comfortable 4 minutes for the room. People have drifted over. The 4-minute pause of a 5-year-old who just accepted a sacrifice. No one knows what to do with that information. I play g6, a pawn move, prophylactic, quiet, blocking the diagonal she wants to open, not an attack, not a counter-sacrifice. Consolidation. Mizuki's smile fades. She was waiting for the panic move, queen out too early, rook misplaced, some aggressive overreach that gives her the tempo back. Instead, she gets a pawn to g6 and a position that is suddenly inconveniently closed. She plays on, of course she does. She's a strong player, and this is a final. The next 10 moves are Mizuki probing for the open line she needs, shifting pressure from the king side to the center and back. I answer each probe with the correct prophylactic response, 1 move at a time, never advancing when I can consolidate. On move 16, she tries to lever open the g-file with h5. I play h6 and close it. On move 19, she sacrifices a pawn to activate her rook. I take the pawn, give the rook a tempo, and use it to connect my own rooks. On move 22, she pushes f5, going for the center break she needs. I take en passant and the pawn structure closes completely. Move 24. The initiative is gone. There are no open lines, no attack, nothing to generate. She has a knight for 2 pawns and a fully stable position across from her. All that's left is technique. And I have been doing technique since before she was born. The next 15 moves are the endgame. Knight versus 2 pawns, rooks still on, my king activating on the queen side while she tries to generate counterplay on the king side that isn't there. I convert without errors, each move the correct one, each king step calculated. The pawn advance timed exactly. On move 39, she looks at the position for 3 minutes. Then she stops the clock. She stands, comes around the table. She extends her hand and I take it, and she shakes it the way you shake an adult's hand. Full grip, single pump. Real. You played prophylaxis on move 12, she says. You knew my attack would run out of air? The knight is worth more than 3 tempos if there are no open lines, I say. There were no open lines. She looks at me, the amusement is completely gone now. Something more considered has replaced it. You're 5 years old. Yes. A pause. She looks down at the board, not checking the position, just looking. I should have sacrificed the bishop, she says. Not the knight. The bishop opens the diagonal whether or not you close the g-file. The knight doesn't. She picks up her bag, walks toward the exit, doesn't look back. I look at the board and think about what she said. She's right. The bishop sacrifice on move 11 would have been considerably more dangerous. The diagonal pressure survives the pawn closure. The compensation is structural rather than tactical, harder to neutralize by consolidation alone. I would have found the defense, but it would have taken longer. The position would have been uncomfortable for more moves. I store that away. Not as a memory of something past, as something I'll need to know. Kenji appears at my shoulder. You won, he says. She was the best opponent I've played in this life, I say. He processes that. I realize what I've said. He doesn't ask what I mean by in this life. He's Kenji. He puts things he doesn't understand yet into the back pocket of the folder. Ready to go? He says, yes. The NHK crew arrives on a Wednesday morning with 2 cameras and a producer who keeps apologizing for taking up space in the apartment. They set up in the main room. Kenji moves the dining table to the side. Aeko makes tea that nobody drinks. The segment is 4 minutes. The host is a pleasant man in his 40s who has clearly been briefed on what to expect and has decided to treat it as charming. He sits across from me on a low stool so our eye levels roughly match. The cameras find their angles. Someone clips a small microphone to my collar. Haru-kun, the host says. Warm smile. When did you start playing chess? Always, I say. He laughs. It's a good laugh, genuine, the laugh of someone who finds children delightful. The camera operator keeps rolling. I don't laugh. I'm not being cute. That is the correct answer to the question. The segment airs on Thursday evening. By Friday morning, Kenji's phone has notifications he doesn't know how to turn off. The clip runs 90 seconds on the broadcast, but someone posts the full interview online, and it gets 400,000 views by Sunday. The comments divide cleanly into 3 categories. People who find it wonderful, people who find it unsettling, and people who think there's a trick somewhere. There is no trick. There's just the position. 3 national qualifying tournaments over the following 8 months. The first is in Osaka in the spring. 48 players, open rating. I win 7 of 8 rounds. The second is in Nagoya, in the summer, 60 players, stronger field. Average rating above 2000. I win 6 and draw 1. The draw is intentional. An endgame I steer into a fortress structure because I'm more interested in testing the boundary of the position than converting a winning advantage I could reach in 3 moves. Kenji doesn't know about the intentional draw. I don't explain it. The third tournament is in Sapporo in early autumn. This one has 3 players rated above 2300 in the field. I beat all 3. My rating after Sapporo is 2310. Candidate Master, I'm 6 years old. The chess forums are louder now. I read them on Kenji's laptop in the evenings when he leaves it open. The discourse is predictable. One group says unprecedented talent, generational phenomenon, watch this child. Another group says the sample size is too small, the opponent's too weak by international standards, wait before drawing conclusions. A third group, smaller but more interesting, says things like looked at the game scores from Osaka. This isn't a child finding tactics. This is positional understanding at an adult level. The pawn structure decisions in round 5 are not what a 6-year-old does. That third group is correct. But they don't know what to do with being correct, so they mostly argue with the second group. Ogata reads the forums too. He mentions one Thursday evening that someone online called him a liar for claiming he'd played me and lost. What did you say, I ask? Nothing, he says. They'll figure it out. He moves his rook. I take it with my bishop. He resigns 4 moves later. You're getting faster, he says. You're getting slower. He considers this. True, he says. He pours tea. Good. The evening after the Sapporo results are posted, I'm in my room with a board, going through Kasparov versus Topalov, Weekend Z, 1999. I've played through this game more times than I can count. In my first life, I went through it so many times the moves became automatic, a kind of kinetic memory. Here, in this body, with this board, I go through it slowly, move by move, making myself look at each position freshly. Move 24, white to move. The rook sacrifice. Kasparov gives up a rook for nothing, immediately tangible. No check, no immediate material gain. Just a reconfiguration of the position that opens lines and creates pressure that will become decisive 8 moves later. The engine confirms it. But the engine didn't find it in real time at a tournament board in 1999. A human found it. A human saw 24 moves in and understood that the position demanded a rook and would repay it. I set the pieces up to move 23 and look at it. Kenji appears in the doorway. He leans against the frame, looking at the board. What are you working on? Kasparov, 1999. White and Z. I move the rook to d4. He sacrifices the rook here. Material down, but the position becomes alive. 8 moves later. Checkmate. Kenji comes in and sits on the floor beside me, cross-legged, looking at the board at my level. He traces the lines with his eyes for a moment. Do you do that, he says? Sacrifice like that? Sometimes. When the position requires it. He's quiet for a moment. I continue through the game. Move 25-26. He watches. Haru. Yes. Do you ever lose on purpose? I look up from the board. No. Never. There's no point. If you lose on purpose, you learn nothing about the position. He nods slowly. The way he nods when something resolves for him, not just accepted, actually settled. He's been wondering about this, I realize. Not whether I throw games for some external reason, something more fundamental. Whether I play to win, or whether winning is just what happens while I do something else. Now he knows. Okay, he says. He looks at the board once more. Show me the rest of it. I go through the final 8 moves of Kasparov-Topalov, moving each piece slowly, and he watches without saying anything. And outside the window it's dark and the apartment is quiet. And this is enough. The Japan Chess Championship is invitation, only 12 players. The top 11 by current rating, plus 1 special admission, me, granted by director Nakamura in what he describes publicly as a historic precedent reflecting exceptional demonstrated ability. Privately, I think Nakamura has become personally invested. He was there at move 18 of our game. He saw what it looked like. The tournament runs over 4 days in Tokyo, round-robin format. Each player faces every other once, 11 games. The venue is a proper one, a conference hall in a hotel in Shinjuku, official clocks, certified arbiters, press credentialed and seated in a glassed-off observation area. This is not a community center. This is where Japanese chess happens at the highest level. I'm 6 years old. Kenji presses my collar flat before we go in. He does it the same way he does everything now, carefully, like it matters. The first 8 rounds go the way the first 8 rounds go. 3 players rated above 2500 are in the field. I beat all 3. 2 games require serious calculation, complex middle games where the position demands precision at every move and 1 slip costs everything. I don't slip. The other 5 games are decided before move 35. By round 9, the press section is running low on fresh angles, and the chess forums have given up arguing about sample size. The 11th round, last game, final pairing. Yamada Keita, 39 years old, current Japan champion. ELO rating 2687, one of the 30 strongest players in the world, and the strongest currently in this room. He's already seated when I arrive at board 1. He looks up when I sit down, not the way people usually look at me, with some mixture of surprise and recalibration. He's done that already. He's had 4 days to watch me play. What he gives me now is the straight level look of a professional who has assessed the situation and decided to treat it as exactly what it is. He nods. I nod back. I know Yamada Keita. He doesn't know that I know him. He sees a 6-year-old in a pressed shirt sitting across a tournament board. But I know the way he sets his pieces, slightly off-center on the square, a habit he never broke. I know he drinks water between moves when he's calculating deeply, not when he's playing on instinct. I know his preparation is excellent in the English Opening, and his endgame technique, in rook endings, is the best I've personally seen from a Japanese player. I also know that he underestimates kingside cover in the middle game, has done it his whole career. Wins often enough through technique that it doesn't cost him most of the time. It will cost him today. He opens with c4, the English, of course. It's his sharpest preparation, and he knows exactly where he wants the game to go. I mirror him the first 6 moves, symmetrical development, nothing committed. On move 7, I deviate, a sideline that looks passive and isn't, that redirects the game from the structures he's prepared for into territory that looks like his but isn't. His eyes move over the board for a moment. He plays on. Move 18. I've been building toward this for 11 moves. The knight has been making its way, e7, then f5, and now I transfer it to d4. A deep central outpost, fully supported, commanding 4 critical squares. It looks simple from outside. From inside the position it changes everything. His rook on the c-file is suddenly passive. His bishop pair loses its coordination. The queenside structure I've been quietly undermining becomes the dominant feature of the board. Yamada's hand stops above his piece. He doesn't complete the move. He sits back. 16 minutes pass. In those 16 minutes I watch him. He drinks water on minute 4 and again on minute 11, deep calculation both times, working through lines. His fingers move slightly against the edge of the table, tracing something. He's seen the idea, not in his preparation, not from theory, from somewhere else, from a place he didn't expect it to come from. Because I showed him this maneuver once, 20 years ago. He was 18 and I was working through knight centralization concepts with him in a cramped training room in Osaka, and he struggled with it for 2 weeks before it clicked. We went through 12 example positions. He still has them somewhere, I'd imagine, in a notebook, probably the way serious students keep things. He doesn't know why he recognizes it, he just does. On minute 17 he makes his response, a good one. The correct defensive structure, piece placement that limits the knight's influence without immediately trading it. Better than I expected. Yamada has grown since I knew him. 7 years of competing at the highest level. Does that? The game goes to 52 moves. It is the longest game of my new life by 18 moves. He defends correctly through the middle game. Each time I build pressure, he finds the accurate response. Each time I threaten to open lines, he closes them. On move 26, I probe the kingside, and he handles it cleanly. On move 31, I try the center, and he trades into a structure that neutralizes the imbalance. Move 38, I stop. The direct approach is not working. The position is even objectively, and if I continue the same plan, I get a draw in 20 more moves. A draw against Yamada Keita would still win me the tournament on tiebreak. A draw would be the correct practical decision. I change the plan entirely. I pull back from the kingside. I redirect my rook to the queenside, where there is a pawn weakness he created on move 14 that neither of us has touched since. It's slight, almost invisible. The kind of thing you can defend easily if you see it coming. Over the next 14 moves, I build pressure on it so gradually that by the time it becomes critical, there's nothing he can do. On move 50, he has to choose between losing the pawn or allowing a passed pawn on the queenside that queens in 8 moves. He looks at both options for 7 minutes. He stops his clock. He looks at the board. The position is clear. There's no resource he hasn't tried and no path he hasn't checked. He looks at it the way you look at something you respect even while it defeats you. Then he looks at me. The pause is long. Long enough that the people watching through the glass have gone still. The knight maneuver on move 18, he says. His voice is quiet. Where did you find it? Logic of the position. A man showed me that idea once, many years ago. He pauses. He's gone now. I say nothing. Did you study his games? I've studied many. Yamada looks at me for a long time. Something moves across his face that isn't rational, not suspicion, not analysis. Something that has no useful category, that arrived from somewhere below logic and doesn't know where to put itself. What is your name, he says. Not a question. He knows my name. He's asking something else. Haru Tanaka. He stands slowly. He looks at the board once more. Strange, he says quietly, mostly to himself. Very strange. The final standings are posted at 6 in the evening. I have 9 points from 11 games, 8 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss in round 4 when I played into a position I found theoretically interesting and paid for it. First place, Japan champion at 6 years old. The lobby afterward is full of the particular noise that follows a historic result. Press, officials, parents of other players who stopped to watch the endgame, a TV crew who arrived for the final round. Kenji stands at the edge of it with the expression he gets at big tournaments, present, steady, slightly underwater. Yamada finds him there. I want to help your son, Yamada says, not as a coach, as a he stops, searches for the word, as a partner, if you're willing. Kenji looks at me. I think about it for exactly long enough to be sure. Yamada is honest. I know this from 3 years of working with him in another life. He's not approaching this for access or advantage. He's approaching it because something happened at board 1 today that he doesn't understand, and he needs to be closer to it to know what it is. He's also the strongest active player in Japan. Training with him will make me better. I nod. Yamada sees the nod and something in his face settles, like a question he's been holding since move 18 has been, if not answered, at least acknowledged. Good, he says. He looks at Kenji, then back at me. We'll start next week. The Tokyo Open draws players from 20 countries. The field runs from 2,400 at the low end to 2,650 at the top. No world-class players, but serious professionals. International-level chess, the kind of tournament where strong national champions come to test themselves and where a result matters beyond the local press. I am 6 years and 8 months old. FIDE has confirmed my rating eligibility for international events, following the verification process Nakamura initiated after the Japan Championship. This is my first rated international appearance. The tournament hall is larger than anything I've played in before. 60 boards. The ambient sound is different, not the particular quiet of a Japanese tournament room, but a multilingual version of it. The same concentration in different languages. I sit down at board 1 for round 1, and the player across from me is a 2,498 from South Korea who studies me for 10 seconds before deciding to play e4. 9 rounds. I win 7. The 2 games I don't win are draws, both against players rated above 2,600. Both in endgames, I steer into positions I want to study. One is a rook and bishop ending that I take to the theoretical limit before offering the split. The other is a queen ending where the fortress structure I build is correct but requires 40 moves to demonstrate, and I demonstrate all 40 of them because I want to be sure I still can. Both opponents accept the draws looking slightly shaken. My rating after the Tokyo Open is 2490. 3 months ago, it was 23.5. That's a gain of 180 points, a number that, historically speaking, doesn't happen. Not at any age. The system isn't designed to accommodate it. Rating gain is supposed to be gradual, statistical, a slow adjustment toward the true level. What I'm doing is not gradual. FIDE opens a review. Standard protocol for anomalous rating progression. Not an accusation, not a finding, just a process. They want to verify the game scores. Confirm the opponents. Identities, check the timestamps on the clocks. They want to make sure the math is real. The math is real. Let them look, I tell Kenji when he mentions it, slightly worried. Every game is recorded. Let them look at every move. He nods. He puts the FIDE letter in the folder, not the back pocket, the main section, alongside the tournament results. He's filing it as fact. Yamada is at the tournament as a player himself, entered in the open section. We don't face each other. The pairings keep us apart until the final round, by which point I've already secured first place on points, and the game between us is technically meaningless for the standings. We play it anyway. Yamada plays with full seriousness for 60 moves before we reach a position where the draw is correct, and we both know it. He offers. I accept. Afterward, he sits across from me at the analysis board, not the tournament board, a side table in the corner, and we go through the middle game together. This is the thing about Yamada. He doesn't just want to train me, he wants to understand. He takes apart positions the way people take apart machines they didn't build, carefully, looking for the logic inside. Move 24, he says. You pushed f5 here. Why not the rook to d1 first? Rook to d1 improves by a tempo, but gives him bf6 and the diagonal becomes his. f5 keeps the diagonal closed and the rook comes to d1 next move with the diagonal already gone. Yamada stares at the position. He sees it. He replays it twice. You saw that in the game? Yes. How far ahead were you calculating from move 21? I think about this. 11 moves with 3 main branches. He closes his notebook. He doesn't say anything for a moment. This is how our sessions go, he asks. I answer. He sits with the answer. He has stopped being surprised. Or he's learned to contain it better, which might be the same thing. It's the 3rd day of the tournament, evening the rest day between rounds 6 and 7. I'm in the lobby with a book, a real book, not a chess book, a novel Ico packed in my bag, when a man I don't recognize sits in the chair beside me. He's perhaps 45, medium build, nondescript jacket, press credential on a lanyard around his neck. He looks at my book for a moment, then at me. Your father is the tall man by the registration desk, he says. Not to confirm, he knows. Yes, I'll go say hello, he goes. I watch him cross the lobby. He reaches Kenji, introduces himself, and they begin talking. I return to the book. I turn a page. I listen. The man's name, which he gives to Kenji, is Takashima. He says he writes for a sports and culture magazine, a long-form feature on exceptional talent in niche disciplines. He has a practiced casual manner, the kind that comes from many years of making people comfortable enough to talk. Kenji responds the way Kenji responds to most things openly, without suspicion, because Kenji is a person who defaults to good faith. They talk about the tournament, about my training schedule, about what it's like to watch your child do something you can't follow. Standard questions. Good answers from Kenji, honest, warm, nothing overstated. Then Takashima says, without pausing, without marking it as different from everything before. Incredible world chess. The Tanaka case always stayed with me. You know, the world champion who was killed, unsolved, just gone. Kenji says he doesn't know much about it. Strangest thing, Takashima says. Best player in the world. Shot in the street. Case goes cold in 6 months. Nobody arrested. You'd think with a profile like that there'd be more pressure to find out who did it. I turn a page of the book. It is strange, Kenji says. Very strange, Takashima says. And then smoothly he moves to another subject. And 2 minutes later he says goodbye, pleasant and unhurried, and leaves through the lobby doors. I close the book. I've been watching this man's reflection in the window across the lobby for the past 4 minutes. I have his face exactly. The press credential was real. I could read the publication name. The questions were professional. But the mention of Kiryu Tanaka was placed too cleanly to be accidental. He didn't stumble into it. He put it there. Who is he? Why now? What does he know? And more importantly, what is he looking for? That night I lie in the dark listening to Kenji's steady breathing in the other bed. I made a decision at the beginning of this life. The past is the past. I have a new name, a new body, a new chance. The person who was shot on Balzacstrasse at 1432 is gone. I am Haru Tanaka. I play chess. That's enough. But the past doesn't stay where you leave it. Alright, if it's coming back on its own, I can use that. But quietly, without showing my hand. I'm a chess player. I see 20 moves ahead. Which means I don't need to act. I need to set the pieces correctly and let the board develop. Takashima wanted to know if anyone connected to me knew about Kiryu Tanaka's death. Now he knows Kenji doesn't, which means the next move is his, and I'll watch what it is. I close my eyes, I memorize the face, I file it. I sleep. The Asia Grand Prix is a qualifying event for the World Championship cycle. 16 players, invitation only, round-robin format over 14 rounds. The field is the strongest I've faced. Average rating 2,580, 3 players above 2,650, no one below 2,480. This is where Asia's best compete for the right to move up. I'm 7 years old. I'm the youngest participant in the tournament's history by 4 years. 12 rounds in. My result, 10.5 out of 12. 8 wins, 5 draws, 0 losses. The draws are all against players rated above 2,620, positions I push until the position genuinely equalizes, then accept. First place, 2 points clear of second. The tournament is mine mathematically before round 13 begins. Round 13, the pairing board goes up at 8 in the morning. I'm eating breakfast with Kenji and Yamada. Yamada traveled as my second for this tournament. The first time he's done it, when Kenji checks the board on his phone and shows it to me without saying anything. Lucas Chen. Round 13. I set down my chopsticks. Lucas Chen is 9 years old. He's Taiwanese, rated 2601, and he did not exist in my previous life. He appeared in the game. His game. This timeline's chess world about 4 years ago, a 10-year-old scoring his first major upset in Taipei, and the game scores have been accumulating since. I've read all 47 of them. Every official game he's played, every tournament record, every annotated match the chess press has covered. Yamada looks at me across the breakfast table. You've studied him, he says? Not a question. 47 games, dynamic style, excellent tactical calculation, sharp opening preparation. He's genuinely strong, not a prodigy phenomenon, genuinely strong. Weakness? Slow positions. He loses the thread when there's nothing to calculate. He wants complications. Endgames make him impatient. I pick up my chopsticks again. So, the endgame is where we go. Yamada nods slowly. He looks like he's filing this alongside the other things he files about me, the things he doesn't have a category for yet. The hall is full for round 13 in a way it wasn't for the earlier round. Word got out yesterday that the pairing was coming. 2 child prodigies, top of the field, the kind of matchup that brings in the cameras. There are press credentials I haven't seen at earlier rounds. The observation area behind the glass is standing room. Lucas Chen is already at the board when I arrive. He's compact, precise in his movements, sets his pieces on the center of each square with the habit of someone who's been told to do it correctly, and has done it so many times it's automatic. When I sit down, he looks at me directly, not the polite look then look away that some players do when they're recalibrating their expectations. He just looks, steady and assessing. Good, he's not underestimating. I think this will be a real game. We shake hands, the clock start. Lucas has white, he opens d4, Queen's Gambit. Classical, principled, well within his preparation. I respond with d5. He plays c4, the gambit offered. I decline with e6, taking the solid path. The game enters the orthodox defense, one of the oldest and most thoroughly analyzed structures in chess, and for the first 20 moves we both navigate it correctly, following theory on lines I know at Grandmaster depth. The pace is fast for the first 15 moves, both of us playing quickly. On preparation, then on move 16, Lucas slows. His preparation has ended and he's thinking on his own now. 4 minutes on move, 17-6, on move 18, on move 21, he plays e5. It's a pawn break in the center. Sharp, aggressive, designed to blow open the position before I've fully consolidated. The kind of move that works if the opponent panics or plays inaccurately, because once the center opens, Lucas's tactical vision becomes the dominant factor. He can calculate deeper and faster in chaotic positions than almost anyone I've faced in this life. I spend 8 minutes on my response. Not because I'm calculating, I see the position clearly in under a minute. I spend 8 minutes because I want to be certain. I trace every branch. If I accept the break, if I close it, if I counter break. I follow each line forward as far as it goes and check where they end. Accepting his break leads to a position that becomes tactically complex by move 25. In that position, Lucas is stronger. That path is his. I play g3. A single pawn move, quiet. It closes the diagonal he needs for the break to work, keeps the center stable, redirects the game into the kind of slow maneuvering that his style finds uncomfortable. Lucas looks at the board. His hand, which was near a piece, comes back. His expression doesn't change dramatically. He's composed, a serious player. But there's a slight tightening around the eyes. His plan has been neutralized before it started. He plays on. Of course he does. The next 20 moves are positional struggle, Lucas probing for the tactical complexity he needs, me closing each door as it appears. He tries a queenside expansion on move 28 that I limit with precise counterplay. He sacrifices a tempo on move 32 to activate his bishop, and I take the tempo back with a rook transfer that leaves the bishop blocked. On move 37 he finds a clever piece regrouping that almost creates the open position he wants. I see it 2 moves before it's complete, and cover it exactly. On move 42, in a position that has no fireworks left, I initiate the endgame. Knight and rook and 5 pawns versus his knight and rook and 4 pawns. I'm up 1 pawn, technically winning, but the conversion is precise work. The extra pawn is passed but needs careful escorting. The rook ending requires accurate king activation, and any inaccuracy lets him build a fortress that holds. Lucas fights it. He's good in endgames by most player standards, just not by mine. On move 48, he misplaces his rook by 1 square, trying to create counterplay on the king side, and that 1 square costs him the tempo he needed to reach the fortress in time. I escort the pawn. Move 51, the king activates. Move 57, the pawn reaches the 7th rank. Move 63, Lucas stops the clock. Silence. He looks at the board for a long time, working backward, checking whether the rook misplacement on 48 was the decisive error, or whether it was already losing before that. He's doing the same analysis I do. The answer is that it was losing before that, from the moment g3 closed the position on move 21. The endgame was just the execution. He raises his eyes. You closed the position on move 21. You knew I was going to break the center? I anticipated it. That was my best idea in this game. I know that's why I closed it. Lucas looks at me for a moment. Then something shifts in his expression. The professional composure opens slightly, just for a second, and underneath it is something that looks like recognition. Not of who I am, of what it feels like to be completely out-prepared by someone who saw your plan before you played it. He smiles. Genuine. No performance in it. We'll play again, he says. Yes. He offers his hand. I take it. The final standings are posted on the last day. I finish with 12.5 out of 14, the win over Lucas, then a clean victory in round 14 over a 26-40 Russian Grandmaster, who plays aggressively and falls into a prepared refutation on move 19. Lucas finishes second at 11 points. He wins his final round as well, beating the third-place player with a tactical attack that the commentary board calls brilliant. It is brilliant. He's a real player. My rating after the Asia Grand Prix is 26-23. I have fulfilled the Grandmaster norm. 3 times over, in fact. 3 separate results across 3 tournaments at the required performance level. The title is automatic at this point, pending FIDA confirmation. The Reuters headline runs on Monday morning. 7-year-old Japanese boy becomes youngest Grandmaster in chess history. Kenji shows it to me on his phone over breakfast. He's been carrying the phone since the night before, checking for the story every 20 minutes. He doesn't say anything. He just holds the screen out. I look at the headline. Does it change anything, I ask? He thinks about it. Then, no, I don't think so. Good. He puts the phone in his pocket. He orders more tea. Yamada across the table is looking out the window at the street. He has his notebook open, but he's not writing in it. He's thinking about something. He does this sometimes. Goes somewhere in his head that I don't have access to. After a while he says, still looking at the window, he was right, you know, Lucas Chen. That was his best idea in the game. I know, and you closed it in 8 minutes. Yes. Yamada nods slowly. He closes the notebook. Okay, he said. What's next? The news breaks on a Tuesday morning in November. I'm at the board with Yamada when Kenji comes into the room with his phone. He doesn't say anything immediately. He reads something, then reads it again, then shows it to Yamada first because Yamada is closer. Yamada reads. His expression doesn't move, but something in his posture shifts. He passes the phone to me. Hans Meyer, German Grandmaster, 43 years old, rated 2798, second in the world, a position he'd held for 3 years. Found dead in his hotel room in Prague this morning, 12 hours before the first round of the Prague Grandmasters was scheduled to begin. Preliminary cause of death, cardiac arrest, no known heart condition. Routine pre-tournament medical check 2 weeks ago showed nothing. I set the phone down on the table. I knew Hans Meyer. Not well, in my previous life. We met at tournaments, spoke at a few official events, played twice in rapid games at team competitions. He was methodical, hardworking, not brilliant in the way some players are brilliant, but more reliable than almost anyone at the top. He had a gift for defense that frustrated everyone who played him. He won through endurance and precision. A good player, a decent man. He's dead at 43 the night before a tournament, and the official explanation is his heart stopped. I've heard this story before. Yamada speaks first, the same as Tanaka. He says it quietly, mostly to himself, not to me. He doesn't know what he's saying to me. The circumstances are similar, I say. Yamada looks at me. You know about the Tanaka case? I've read about it. By evening, the chess press has connected the dots, and the mainstream news picks it up the day after. 2 deaths, both world-class players, both the night before major tournaments, both officially ruled non-suspicious at first examination. The pattern is visible enough that Interpol issues a statement. They are reviewing the Meyer case and reopening the Tanaka file for parallel analysis. For the first time in 5 years, the death of the world chess champion is being treated as what it is. I sit with this information for a full day before I do anything. The geometry of it is clear to me now in a way it wasn't when I was living it. When I was Kiroyu Tanaka, I knew someone wanted me to lose in Vienna. I knew the anonymous warning was real. I didn't know the scale. I thought it was one person, one bet, one moment of danger that passed when I won and would not return. I was wrong about the scale. It didn't pass. It came back 3 days later on Balzacstrasse. Meyer was second in the world. I was first. 2 top players removed from the board, both before major events where the results would affect standing and, presumably, certain financial positions. Who benefits when the top 2 players in the world are gone? The third, the fourth, the field opens. Odds shift, money moves. Who had money positioned to move? I'm not a detective, I'm a chess player. A detective gathers evidence and builds a case. A chess player looks at the board and identifies the position. Those are different things and I'm only qualified to do one of them. But looking at the position is enough to start. The European Chess Grand Circuit has a tournament in Tokyo 6 weeks after Meyer's death. I'm entered. Yamada is playing as well. The tournament draws 40 players from across the world, and with it comes the full press infrastructure. Journalists, managers, federation officials, the administrative layer that follows major international chess like a tide. In this world, I am news. The Grandmaster title confirmed 3 weeks ago made it official, and Meyer's death has made the chess world suddenly very visible to the mainstream press. There are more credentials at registration than I've seen at any previous event. On the second day, during the lunch break between rounds 3 and 4, I find myself near the press room, not accidentally. The press manager for the tournament is a woman named Ogawa, efficient, bilingual, has been running press for the Japan Chess Association events for 8 years. She knows everyone. In the press world, knowing everyone means knowing everything. I sit near her table while she eats and I make conversation. I'm a 7-year-old grandmaster. Nobody thinks twice about me being anywhere. I mentioned that I've been reading about the Meyer case. I mentioned that I read something online about strange contacts Meyer had in Prague before the tournament. Something about a sports investment group. I'm not sure I understood it correctly. Ogawa puts her sandwich down. She talks for 11 minutes. She knows more than I expected. The chess press community has been discussing this privately since the story broke, sharing fragments across their networks. She gives me 3 names: a Czech sports betting intermediary who was at every Prague Grandmasters for the past 4 years, a Swiss financial entity that holds positions across multiple chess broadcast and sponsorship contracts, a federation logistics contractor who had access to player hotel assignments. I listen, I eat my lunch. I ask one clarifying question about the Swiss entity, just enough to confirm the name spelling, and then I change the subject and we talk about the tournament pairings. That night in my hotel room I write. Not in a notebook, nothing with my handwriting. I use the hotel business center after midnight, when it's empty. I type carefully. I include the 3 names Ogawa gave me, the connections between them, and the 2 facts I know from my own death. The anonymous warning before Vienna, the 3-day gap between my Vienna win, and the shooting. I include the logical inference. This is not individual actors. This is a structure. Someone at the top of the structure needs identifying. I do not include where I got any of this. I do not include my name. I send it to the Interpol cybercrime tip portal, the general inquiry address, and the specific case contact listed in the public press release about the Meyer investigation. Then I close the browser, clear the history, go back to the room. Kenji is asleep. I sit on the edge of my bed in the dark. I'm not a detective. I'm not building a case. I'm not trying to solve this myself, and I'm not going to. What I'm doing is simpler than that. I'm moving pieces, feeding information to the players who can act on it, without showing my hand, without appearing on the board at all. Somewhere above this, there's a player who thinks they've been managing this position for 5 years. They remove the world number 1. They remove the world number 2. They're operating on the assumption that no one sees the pattern clearly enough to act on it. They're wrong about that, but they don't know they're wrong yet. I close my eyes. I think about the end game. In a correctly played end game, you don't attack directly. You improve your position, move by move, until the winning plan becomes inevitable. You don't need to force anything. You just need to be more accurate than your opponent, for longer, and let the position do the work. The position is doing the work. I sleep. The FIDE rating list publishes on the 1st of every month. The December list comes out 3 weeks after the Tokyo Grand Circuit. I check it on Kenji's laptop at the kitchen table. My new rating, Toothix 41. World rank, 41. The youngest player in the top 50 in the history of the official rating system by 11 years. Rank 1 on the list is Kim Jun-ho. Rating, 2,812. That number is the second highest ever recorded. The highest held for 6 years before the bullet on Balzacstrasse was 2847. Kim Jun-ho is 34 years old, Korean, and has been world champion for 2 years. He took the title 8 months after my death, in a match against the player who had been ranked second at the time, a methodical Russian who Kim defeated in a grinding 12-game match that the chess press called a masterpiece of psychological pressure. Kim has defended the title once since. Against a French Grandmaster he beat in 9 games without losing a single one. I know Kim Jun-ho. We played twice in World Championship finals in my previous life. I won both times. The first match he lost in 11 games and shook my hand at the closing ceremony with the precise minimum of contact required by protocol. The second match he lost in 10 and didn't attend the closing ceremony. His federation cited illness. He was photographed at a restaurant in Seoul the same evening. In interviews over the years, he referred to his opponents as technically limited, and to the broader chess world as not yet at the level required to seriously challenge the top. He said these things in the same measured tone that a person uses when they're not certain they're wrong. Arrogant, yes. Cold, yes. But not stupid. Kim is not stupid. He backs his statements with results, and the results are nearly always there. I haven't thought about him specifically in some time. I've been focused on the board in front of me. Then Yamada shows me a press conference clip. It's from the Korean Chess Federation's end-of-year media event. The room is formal, the lighting expensive. Kim sits at the center of a long table in a dark suit, flanked by Federation officials. He speaks Korean, and a translator provides English alongside. A journalist asks about the new FIDE Grandmaster, the youngest in history. Kim looks at the camera. The pause is long, 3 seconds, which is a long time on camera. He is deciding how much to give them. He decides on just enough. Children's tournaments are very nice, he says. When the boy is older and plays at an actual level, we'll see. He moves on to the next question. The translator continues in the same neutral tone. The press conference continues. Yamada pauses the clip. He looks at me carefully, the way he looks when he's trying to read something. I look at the frozen image on screen. Kim Jun-ho at 34, slightly grayer at the temples than I remember from my previous life. The same expression of contained certainty that he's always had. The expression of a man who has won enough to believe that winning is his natural state. Children's tournaments, Yamada says with a particular flatness. He means it, I say. It's not a performance. He genuinely believes the field he's playing in is not the real field. Are you angry? I think about this. In my previous life, Kim's contempt was a constant low-level feature of the competitive environment, something you encountered at events, in press, in the margins of the game. It was annoying the way bad weather is annoying. You account for it and continue. I'm not angry now either. What I feel is something more specific than anger. I recognize him. I know exactly what he is, and exactly how he plays, and exactly where his certainty breaks down. Not often, but it does break down, under specific conditions, in specific position types, where his calculation outruns his judgment, and he makes the move he wants to make instead of the move the position requires. I know where those cracks are. He doesn't know I exist yet. Not really to Kim Jun-ho, the Japanese boy, is a footnote on the December rating list and a question at a press conference he handled in 4 seconds. He has not looked at my games. He has not considered me as a variable in his planning. That is a significant advantage. Exactly the same as before, I say. Not to Yamada. I start the sentence before I realize I'm saying it, and I stop. Yamada looks at me. Before what? He says quietly. I close the laptop. Before I'd played him, I say, in the games I've studied. Yamada is still for a moment. He has the expression he gets when something doesn't quite fit, when an explanation is technically possible and feels constructed. He's had that expression before, after move 18 at the Japan Championship, after certain moments in training where I know something I shouldn't know the way I know it. He lets it go. He always lets it go. We should start preparing for Kim, he says. Yes, it'll be at least a year before you can be in a world championship cycle. You need the rating, the qualifying results. I know the path. He looks at me. Okay, he says, then let's walk it. I open the laptop again, pull up the rating list. Kim Jun-ho, 2812, rank 1. Below that, rank 2 is currently vacant. Hans Meyer held it until 3 weeks ago. I look at that empty line for a moment. The list moves everyone up by 1. The number 2 spot now belongs to the player who was 3rd before Meyer died. I think about the anonymous letter sitting in an Interpol inbox, the 3 names, the Swiss entity, the Czech intermediary, the board develops. I close the rating list, open Kim's game database instead. 412 official games. I have read all of them. I open the first one anyway. A tournament game from 2009, Kim at 20, his first major international result, and I start again from the beginning. If you're going to play someone, you should know them completely. I know him. I start from the beginning anyway. The candidates tournament is the final qualifying stage before the World Championship match. 8 players, round robin, 14 rounds. Every player faces every other twice. The winner earns the right to challenge Kim Jun-ho for the title. I'm 8 years old. I am the youngest candidates participant in the history of the event by 6 years. The field, Lucas Chen, who qualified through the Asia Grand Prix behind me, and has since raised his rating to 2641. Dmitry Volkov, former world champion, Russian, 47 years old, rated 2,749, won the title in 2014 and held it for 3 years before losing it in 2017. Erik Lindqvist, European champion, Swedish, rated 2,711. Andrei Baranov, rated 2698, the current world number 3. 3 others above 2,620. This is the strongest field I've played in. Every person at this table is dangerous. The tournament is held in Vienna. I notice this when Kenji tells me, Vienna, the same city where in my previous life I won the tournament that preceded my death. I note it and set it aside. The city is a city. The board is the board. Yamada and I have prepared for 6 months. Specific preparation for each opponent, opening lines tailored to their weaknesses, endgame structures they find uncomfortable, middle game themes where our advantage is clearest. For Volkov, who I know is the most likely final round obstacle, we prepare something specific. He is a defensive genius, but his defense has a pattern, and patterns can be used against you. The first 7 rounds go cleanly. I beat Baranov in round 2 with a queenside attack he doesn't see coming until move 29. I beat Lindqvist in round 4 in an endgame that takes 61 moves of precise technique. He's better than I expected in defense and holds the position longer than most players could before a single inaccuracy on move 54 decides it. I draw Lucas Chen in round 6, a genuine draw, not a studied one, a position where we both play correctly and the game arrives at equality through the logic of the moves rather than any agreement. He offers on move 41, I accept. After the game, Lucas looks at me across the table. Candidates final? He says, probably round 8, I say. He nods, not disappointed, calculating. He's working out whether second place is still achievable for him and what he needs from the remaining rounds. After 7 rounds, my score is 5.5 out of 7. First place, half a point clear of Lindqvist in second. The math is simple. A win or draw in round 8 secures first place regardless of other results. Round 8, Alexei Volkov. He's been at the top of world chess for over 20 years, world champion for 3. His results since losing the title have been steadily strong, not dominant, but he finishes in the top 4 of every major event he enters. He is not a player in decline. He is a player in a different phase. He takes the white pieces, opens with d4. Within 6 moves, the game is in a structure he knows extremely well. A Queen's Indian setup where White's plan is patient space advantage, and Black must find counterplay on the Queen side or accept a slow suffocation. His strategy is explicit. He's not hiding it. Build a fortress, wait, make no errors, let the position grind, and trust that at some point the younger player, the 8-year-old specifically, will make the mistake that ends it. He has done this to younger players before. He has outlasted people this way in games that went past move 100. I don't rush. The first 30 moves are maneuvering, rooks finding files, pieces improving incrementally, pawn structures adjusting by single squares. Volkov defends everything. Each time I build pressure, he finds the correct response. On move 24, I probe the king side. He seals it. On move 31, I push the queen side. He exchanges pieces to neutralize. On move 39, I establish a passed pawn on c6. He blockades it with his knight, and the pawn goes nowhere. Kenji is in the observation section behind the glass. Yamada is beside him. I can't see their faces from the board. Move 44, I reassess. The passed pawn plan is neutralized. The kingside pressure plan is neutralized. The standard attacking approaches are all defended. Volkov is playing perfectly within his system, and his system is designed to be correct for a very long time. But his system has a cost. To maintain the blockade on the queen side and the seal on the king side simultaneously, he has placed his pieces on specific squares, optimal for defense, suboptimal for transition. His rook on d2 can defend but cannot attack. His knight on c5 is the blockader, but it is fixed there. His bishop is the wrong color for the pawn structure he's built. He's built a fortress. Fortresses have one weakness: they are static, and static positions, given enough time, can always be improved around. Over the next 20 moves I improve, slowly one square at a time. My king walks from g8 to e6, a journey of 8 moves that looks passive and isn't. My rook shifts to the h-file, then the g-file, then back, not attacking, positioning. My bishop finds a diagonal it hasn't used. Volkov defends each of these improvements. He has to. Each one individually is small, but he understands that each one he allows narrows his defensive options by a fraction. Move 65. The position looks from outside, like a drawn endgame. 2 rooks each, bishop and knight for both sides. Pawn structure locked. A spectator unfamiliar with the deep structure would see a position heading toward a split. I lift my rook from g4 and place it on h4. Then I take my hand off it. The rook is hanging. Offered. Not a tactical trick, there's no immediate combination that follows. It's a positional sacrifice. I give up the exchange, rook for knight, and in return I get a passed pawn on g5. His bishop's suddenly without a good diagonal, and a king path to d5 that his remaining pieces cannot cover. The combination that makes this work is 12 moves long. In those 12 moves, the position transforms from apparently equal to objectively 1 for black. The path is narrow. There are 4 precise moves required in sequence that cannot be varied, but it exists, and I can see every branch of it. Volkov stares at the board. He picks up his king's knight, sets it down, picks up his rook, sets it down, drinks water, looks at the position again. 38 minutes. He takes the rook. It's the wrong decision, but I understand why he makes it. He cannot find the refutation in his remaining time, and the position after taking looks defensible at first glance. It requires seeing 12 moves deep to know it isn't. I play the response. Then the next, 4 precise moves in sequence. On move 73, the passed pawn is unstoppable. On move 76, Volkov's king is cut off. On move 78, his pieces run out of moves to make simultaneously a different kind of zugzwang than the positional one, a forced mate version, and he tips his king. He tips it gently, sets it on its side the old way. He sits for a moment. Then he looks at me with the clean, undecorated expression of a man who has been beaten correctly and knows it. The rook sacrifice on 65, he says. When did you see it? Move 52. He looks at the board once more. 13 moves before you played it. Yes. He stands, shakes my hand. Full grip longer than the protocol requires. Then he picks up his jacket and walks toward the exit without looking back. The final standings confirm I have won the candidates tournament. First place, 6 points from 8 rounds. Lucas Chen takes second. At 8 years old, I am the World Championship challenger. In the observation section behind the glass, Yamada has his hand over his mouth. Kenji is sitting down. I think his legs went again. I begin resetting the pieces. But as I reach for the rook, the one I sacrificed on move 65, I notice something. The man from the Tokyo tournament lobby is in the back row of the spectator section. Takashima, the journalist who mentioned Kiroyu Tanaka to Kenji 8 months ago. He's here at the candidates in Vienna with a press credential. He's talking to someone beside him, a man I don't recognize. One of the event organizers by the look of his badge. As I watch without appearing to watch, the organizer reaches into his jacket pocket, takes out a phone, looks at the screen, types something, puts it away. Takashima says something and walks away. I finish resetting the board. That evening I write the second anonymous letter. This one is more specific than the first. Takashima's name and publication. The organizer, I took his name from the badge. It was readable from the board at the right angle. The venue, the approximate time of the interaction. The fact that the same journalist appeared at 2 different events, months apart, and in each case made contact with people connected to event logistics. I include one more thing, a note that the individual I observed does not know he is being observed, and that the interaction at this venue may be documentable through the venue's own security footage. I send it to the same 3 Interpol addresses as the first letter. Then I close the browser, clear the history, and go to find Kenji and Yamada in the hotel restaurant where they've been waiting. Yamada has ordered beer, Kenji has ordered tea. They're both sitting very still, which for Yamada is normal, and for Kenji means he's been doing it since the rook sacrifice. I sit down. Move 65, Yamada says immediately. Yes. When did you calculate it? Move 52. He looks at me. He picks up his beer. He sets it down without drinking. All right, he says quietly. Kenji puts his hand on my shoulder. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. The pieces are moving. The Grandmaster's Invitational is not part of the official World Championship cycle. It has no qualifying implications, no rating weight beyond standard, no formal standing in the championship structure. It's a prestige event. 10 of the world's strongest players in a single round robin. 9 rounds. The kind of tournament that exists because strong players want to play each other and sponsors want the audience. The wildcard invitation arrives 3 months after Vienna. I am the first wildcard entry in the tournament's 9-year history who is not a former world champion or a current top 5 player. The tournament director explains this to Kenji with the slightly dazed tone of a man who is aware he is making an exception that rewrites the rules he thought were settled. 10 players. The field includes Lindqvist, Baronoff, Lucas Chen, 3 other players from the candidates field, 2 former world champions, and Kim Jun-ho. Yamada looks at the invitation letter for a long time. This is the first time, he says. Yes, you'll face him in round 8. The pairings are fixed for invitationals. I know, are you prepared? I think about the 412 games I've read twice through. The preparation files Yamada and I have built over 6 months, 23 specific opening lines, 7 endgame structures, 11 middle game themes where Kim's calculation tends to outrun his judgment, and he plays the move he prefers over the move the position requires. Not fully, I say, but enough for a draw. Yamada looks at me. You're not playing for the win? Not in round 8. I'm playing for information. He thinks about this, nods once. He has learned to trust when I say things like this, even when I don't explain them fully. He's also learned that I usually have a reason. The first 7 rounds go as they go. I win all 7. The games vary: a short, sharp win in round 2 against the younger former champion, a long technical grind in round 5 against Baranov that reaches move 71 before his queenside collapses, a clean positional win in round 7 against Lindqvist that Yamada says afterward is the cleanest game I've played in a tournament setting. Kim wins his first 7 rounds as well. His games are different from mine, sharper, more aggressive, higher wire positions that he navigates with the confidence of someone who has done it for 15 years. He beats Baranov differently than I do, through a kingside attack in 39 moves that the commentary boards call clinical. He beats Lucas Chen in 44 moves, a dynamic Sicilian battle that goes wrong for Lucas on move 30 when he underestimates a piece sacrifice. After 7 rounds, Haru Tanaka, 7 points. Kim Junho, 7 points. Round 8 pairing is fixed. The hall for round 8 has a different quality than the earlier rounds. The organizers have arranged more cameras. The online stream, it was at 40,000 viewers for round 1, is at 400,000 when the clocks start. The observation area is standing room. Journalists who weren't credentialed for earlier rounds have somehow appeared. Kim arrives at board 1 first and is already seated when I walk in. He watches me cross the room, not the way he watched at press conferences, from a distance, with the managed expression of someone handling a question they find unserious. Up close across a board, his attention is different, focused present. His eyes when I sit down are not contemptuous. They are cold and measuring and completely awake. He has looked at my games, of course he has. I would have in his position. He knows what I do, he's prepared. Good. We shake hands. The clocks start. Kim has white. He plays e4. I answer c5, the Sicilian. His preparation will be deep here, the most theoretically developed opening in the game. He plays nf3, d4, takes on d4 with the knight. We enter the Najdorf structure. The first 20 moves are preparation for both of us, faster than most games at this level, both of us following lines we know. On move 21, Kim deviates from the main theoretical path with a rare bishop maneuver I've seen in 2 of his games from 3 years ago. It's his preparation, a specific line he's developed. Sharp, demanding, leading to complex positions where the evaluation is unclear for many moves. I spend 11 minutes. The line he's chosen has 2 main continuations. The first leads to a position where black has compensation for a sacrificed pawn, but the play is double-edged, and the advantage swings based on very precise moves in a 10-move sequence. I'd need to calculate perfectly over 10 moves in positions I haven't specifically prepared. The second continuation closes the center and steers toward a slower structural battle where the evaluation is roughly equal but black has no immediate problems. I play the second. Kim looks at my move. A brief stillness. He expected the sharp continuation, has prepared against it. The slower line is different. He thinks for 9 minutes before responding. The game settles into positional maneuvering. For 20 moves, we both improve our pieces, probe, adjust. Kim is strong in this kind of play. Patient, accurate, not prone to the impatience that affects some attacking players when the position closes. He's looking for a way to create the complexity he wants. I keep closing it. Move 42. I've built a position that is comfortable for black. Not better, not worse. Comfortable. No weaknesses, no entry points, no structural issues. The balance is real, not manufactured. I offer a draw. Kim looks at the position. Looks at me, the offer is correct. The position is equal and both sides have limited ways to improve. He knows this. He accepts. The handshake is brief. The press surrounds us within 40 seconds of the clock stopping. Someone puts a microphone near Kim. What does he think of Haru Tanaka's game? He looks across the room where I'm answering a different question from a different journalist. His answer comes easily. The way a prepared answer does. Technical. But there's still a long way to go before we're talking about real chess. The boy needs to grow up. I hear it. I'm 10 feet away and the room isn't loud enough to cover it. He needs this to be true. He needed the draw not to happen. It happened, and now he needs a frame for it that keeps the frame of his world intact. The boy needs to grow up. Is that frame? I understand the impulse. It doesn't change anything. He's nervous. A draw with an 8-year-old in front of 400,000 people is not what he expected when he agreed to play this tournament. Nervous champions make errors. Not many, not obvious ones. Kim is too good for that. But the errors exist, and they appear in positions where certainty becomes more important than accuracy, where he plays the way he knows he plays instead of what the position requires. I've seen those moments in 412 games. In round 9, I play Lindqvist and win in 38 moves. An attack on the kingside that opens quickly once he mishandles the pawn structure on move 22. Kim plays Lucas Chen in round 9. Lucas gives him a game, a real one. The sharp Sicilian dragon that Lucas handles better than most, and Kim only escapes with a win in the endgame after 51 moves of careful maneuvering. Final standings. Haru Tanaka, 8.5 points from 9. Kim Junho, 8 points. I have won the Grandmaster's Invitational. The closing ceremony is in the main hall. Award presentations, photographs, the standard structure. Kim appears for the photograph. He is required to. Both finalists in the same frame. The tournament director in the center. He stands straight, expression composed, every inch the world champion who has handled losses and draws with professionalism for his entire career. The photograph is taken. Kim Jun-ho shakes the tournament director's hand. Then he turns and walks toward the exit, and he doesn't slow down as he passes the table where the second-place trophy sits waiting for him, and he is out of the hall before the ceremony formally concludes. I watch him go. Yamada appears beside me. He left. Yamada says yes. He didn't take the trophy. Someone will send it to him. Yamada is quiet for a moment. Round 8, he says, you played for information, you said. Yes, and I think about 20 moves of Kim Jun-ho playing a closed position across a real board, in real time, under real pressure. The moments where he chose correctly. The moment on move 34 where he spent 7 minutes on a move that should have taken 2, because he was forcing himself to check a line he didn't think he needed to check, because something in the position was making him uncertain. Position type, closed center, queenside minority attack. Both kings castled short, his certainty decreased. His calculation became careful in a way it isn't, when he's in his preferred sharp positions. That is useful enough, I say. The Interpol press release comes out on a Tuesday in March, 4 months after the Grandmaster's Invitational. It doesn't say much, official language, measured phrasing, the careful calibration of a statement designed to confirm action without confirming findings. It says that the investigation into the death of Hans Meyer, ongoing since November, has been formally linked to the previously closed investigation into the death of Kiroyu Tanaka. It says that financial irregularities connected to professional chess tournaments across several jurisdictions are under examination. It says that the investigation is progressing. I read it twice. Then I set it aside and go to training. Yamada is going through Kim's Sicilian repertoire with me specifically. The positions that arise after White plays the English attack, where Kim's preparation is deepest and the lines are most double-edged. We've been on this for 3 weeks. Yamada has found a theoretical novelty on move 14 that hasn't appeared in any public game, an engine suggestion that looks passive and generates very concrete counterplay 8 moves later. We've analyzed it for 40 hours. Here, Yamada says, moving the bishop. If he plays bg5 on move 12 instead of b3, the novelty still works. The bishop isn't on the right square to cover d4. He plays b3 in 91% of his Sicilian games, I say. And the other 9%? bg5 4 times, h3 twice, f3 once. I set up the h3 position. h3 is the one that requires a different response. We go through h3, then f3. Then we go back to b3 and run the novelty forward another 3 branches. This is how the days go before a world championship match. Not dramatic. Preparation, refinement, verification. The board is the board and the work is the work. 2 weeks after the Interpol press release, I'm at a preparation tournament in Singapore, a smaller event, round robin among 8 players, primarily useful for keeping match sharp in live games rather than training positions. Round 3, lunch break. I'm walking back from the bathroom through a service corridor that connects to the main hall. 2 men in event staff badges are talking near the catering station. I'm not visible to them from the corridor angle, a partial wall between us. I'm not trying to listen. I'm walking past. One of them says a name. I stop. The name is Hartmann. Klaus Hartmann. It comes in the middle of a sentence about logistics, about payments, about something the speaker clearly doesn't want to be discussing in a hotel corridor, but is discussing anyway because he's angry and not thinking about location. The other man says something quieter, placating. The first man says Hartmann's name again, this time with a phrase about the arrangement in Vienna and what happened with Meyer. I walk past normal pace. I don't look at them. I sit down at my board for round 3. My opponent, a 2,620 from India, opens with d4. I play the Nimzo Indian. The game goes 41 moves. I win in the endgame through a bishop and pawn structure that becomes winning once I establish an outside passed pawn on move 34. I play correctly throughout. During the game, I'm also thinking about what I heard. Klaus Hartmann. I didn't know this name before this afternoon. The context was payment, Vienna, Meyer. Enough context to make the name meaningful, but not enough to establish what exactly the meaning is. The name could belong to someone adjacent to the scheme, peripheral, useful only as a link, or it could belong to the person at the center. That evening I use Kenji's tablet. He's watching TV in the other room. I take 20 minutes. Klaus Hartmann, 49 years old, Austrian national, founder and primary shareholder of a sports financial consulting firm registered in Liechtenstein. The firm appears in 3 publicly visible contexts: a sponsorship of a European chess circuit event 4 years ago, a listed partnership with a sports broadcast rights company, and a passing mention in a financial blog post about alternative investment vehicles in emerging sports markets. Nothing incriminating, nothing that connects him to anything illegal. A clean public profile, specifically clean, the kind of cleanliness that results from effort rather than innocence. But the Liechtenstein registration connects to a holding company. The holding company appears in the leaked documents from a 2022 offshore financial disclosure that several journalists covered briefly before it stopped being newsworthy. In those documents, the holding company has financial relationships with 2 other entities. One of those entities matches the Swiss financial structure that Ogawa mentioned in Tokyo 14 months ago, the one I included in my first anonymous letter. I close the browser, clear the history. I open the email interface, log into the anonymous address I created 8 months ago, and write the third letter. This one is the shortest. 1 page. Klaus Hartmann, full name, nationality, corporate structure, the Liechtenstein registration number, the holding company name, the connection to the Swiss entity from the first letter. The inference, the payment chains Interpol has been following across 3 jurisdictions may converge at this entity. Suggested point of entry for verification. The 2022 offshore disclosure documents, cross-referenced against the tournament payment records for Prague and Vienna. I add one more line. The name was spoken aloud in conversation by an event staff member at the Singapore Grand Circuit Tournament, rounds 3 through 5, March. If the venue has security footage of the service corridor near the main catering station, the conversation may be on record. I send it. Close the browser, close the tablet. I go to the doorway of the other room. Kenji is on the sofa watching a cooking show. He looks comfortable. I don't interrupt him now. I wait. The wait is 12 days. On a Thursday afternoon, there's a knock at the apartment door. Kenji answers it. I'm in my room with a training position on the board, rearranging pieces through a Volkov endgame study. I can hear the conversation clearly. The apartment is the same size it's always been. The man identifies himself. Interpol Financial Crimes Division, attached to the Tanaka-Meyer joint investigation. He has a card. He says it's routine. Just some questions in connection with the ongoing case. He asks Kenji about Kiroyu Tanaka, whether we have any connection to the case, whether anyone has contacted us regarding the investigation, whether we've noticed any unusual attention or contact from anyone connected to professional chess. Kenji answers everything honestly. He does this because Kenji is on. He doesn't know about the letters, he doesn't know about the business center in Vienna at midnight, or the Singapore tablet session, or the 3 anonymous submissions. He has nothing to hide because I have kept it entirely away from him. He says no to each question, no unusual contacts, no connection to the Tanaka case. He says we follow the news because we're in the chess world, and it's a significant story, but that's all. At the door, the agent pauses. He turns back. If your son knows anything or notices anything connected to this case, please encourage him to contact us. We're close to the end of this. He leaves. I wait 30 seconds, then I come out of my room into the hallway. Kenji is standing by the door. He looks at me for a long time. Long enough that I know he's been doing the arithmetic, the timing of certain things, the moments that didn't quite fit, the way I sometimes know what I shouldn't know. Haru, he says. Yes. Were you the one writing those letters? Long pause. No, I say. He looks at me. His face does something careful and considered, and ultimately decided. He nods, slowly, once. He doesn't ask again. I go back to my room. I sit down at the board. I put the Volkov endgame back in the starting position and begin again from the beginning. The agent said they're close to the end. Close is not there yet. I play the position. The match begins on a Monday in October in Tokyo. The venue is the National Convention Hall in Shibuya, the main hall capacity 2,000, every seat filled from the first day. The online stream for Game 1 peaks at 11 million. By Game 5 it's 19 and the infrastructure team issues a statement about server load, the format, 14 games, classical time control, 120 minutes for the first 40 moves, then 30 minutes for the rest of the game, with a 30-second increment from move 1. First to 7.5 points is world champion, draws count as half a point each. I'm 9 years old, the youngest world championship challenger in history by 9 years. Kim enters the hall first as the defending champion, that is protocol. He walks to the board with the unhurried certainty of someone who has done this before and intends to do it again. The audience is respectful, not warm. They know who they've come to watch. Then I walk out. The hall changes. I don't have a word for what it does exactly. There's a shift in the quality of the silence. 2,000 people recalibrating something simultaneously. I walk through it. The board is at the end of the room. The distance is the same distance it always is. Same hall. Same smell of air. The particular combination of climate control and tension and the collective concentration of people watching something that matters. Different body, only that. I sit down. Kim is already seated, hands folded, watching me with the eyes that are awake and cold. We've been through this before. The Grandmaster's observation room. The physical reality of each other across a board. He's not surprised by me anymore. He's prepared. Good. Preparation that isn't quite enough is more dangerous than no preparation at all. It gives a player certainty they haven't earned. We shake hands. Game 1 begins. Games 1 through 3 are the opening statement of both sides. Kim plays solidly. No risks, no experiments. The stabilized positions of a player who wants to learn before he acts. He knows more about me than any opponent I've faced. He has studied my games the way I have studied his. The first 3 games are, in a specific sense, 2 people verifying their preparation against the reality of the board and finding that the preparation is roughly correct. 3 draws. Score, 1.5. 1.5 Game 4. Kim has white. He opens e4 and plays the Rui Lopez, the oldest serious opening in the game, deep theory, the structure he trusts most when he wants to press. He does press. From move 12 he builds kingside pressure, sacrifices a pawn on move 19 for attacking compensation, builds a position where his queen and rook bear down on my castled king. I defend. Each of his attacking moves has a correct response and I find each one. On move 29, his attack peaks and begins to recede. He has no new threats to generate. The position has reached maximum tension and can't increase. On move 33, I escape into a rook ending that's slightly worse for me. We reach time pressure simultaneously, both of us down to the increment, playing on 30 seconds per move. I hold the rook ending for 14 moves in the scramble, and on move 47, the position equalizes completely. He offers, I accept, draw, score, 2-2. Game 5, my white, I open d4. Kim plays the Nimzo Indian, nf6, e6, bb4. It's not his most frequent choice against d4. He plays it occasionally, but the frequency in my preparation data is low enough that it registers as unusual. He's prepared something here. On move 8, I feel it, a specific piece arrangement he's building, a structure I've seen in his preparation files but not in his public games. It's a theoretical novelty of his own, designed to equalize comfortably against my most common continuations. I change plan on move 8. Not the opening. The opening is still queen's pawn, but the system within it. I redirect the bishop to a square. It doesn't go in the main lines, closing the avenue his novelty needs. The position transposes into a structure that's slightly unusual for both of us. He spends 14 minutes on move 9. His preparation has ended. The game becomes positional, slow, structural, the kind of chess where the advantage is measured in fractions of a pawn, and the question is who can accumulate small advantages faster. Kim is strong in this kind of play. He's demonstrated it over 14 years at the top, but today he's playing it without his prepared lines, without the comfort of knowing where he's going. On move 22, I establish a knight on e5, the same central outpost concept I used against Yamada in Tokyo 3 years ago. The maneuver that goes back further than that. The knight is immovable. It dominates 4 squares and its presence slowly reshapes the structure. Kim defends correctly. On move 30, he finds the best response, a temporary pawn sacrifice to activate his bishop. I take the pawn and use the tempo to double my rooks on the d-file. He wins the pawn back, but the rook structure is mine. On move 44, he allows a queen trade, not by choice, by necessity. The position demands it. We go into an endgame. Rooks and knights, 6 pawns each. My rook slightly more active, 30 moves of technique. I know this ending type at depth I don't have words for. It's the accumulation of decades, the procedural memory of 1,000 endgames converted or failed and studied afterward. On move 61, his kingside pawns collapse, he resigns. Score 3.5, 2.5. I lead by 1, games 6 and 7. This is where Kim shows something I haven't seen from him in 412 games, the controlled anger of a player who is behind and playing through it. Game 6, he plays black and launches a sharp queen's gambit counter with an early piece sacrifice on move 14. It's a prepared line, aggressive, the kind of position where the margin for error is narrow and the player with sharper calculation survives. He plays it at speed, spending almost no time on the first 20 moves. The sacrifice gives him attacking play on the queen side while my king remains in the center. I accept the piece, I defend. The position is objectively equal or slightly better for me after careful defense. I can see this from move 17, but the defense is demanding, requires precise calculation across many variations, and Kim plays his attacking moves quickly, putting time pressure on my decisions. On move 31, I find the move that diffuses the attack completely. The position stabilizes. We reach a drawn endgame on move 46 and Kim offers immediately draw. Game 7. Kim has white, plays the English opening, and delivers the most technically precise game I've seen from him. Patient, methodical, slow accumulation of a minimal positional advantage, and then exact conversion. It's the kind of game Volkov plays, the waiting game, except Kim executes it with sharper precision. He wins on move 59 when my queenside pawns fall. Score 4-4 by points. 2 wins each. When Kim makes his final move in Game 7, he places the piece with a particular deliberateness, not aggressive, controlled. He is managing himself. But when he writes the move on his score sheet, his pen presses harder than it needs to. He is winning games. He is also angry. Both things are true simultaneously. Games 8 through 10, 3 more draws. We are feeling each other's preparation at depth now, each game going further into prepared territory before either of us deviates, each deviation carefully chosen. Game 8 lasts 31 moves. Game 9 is a fascinating structural battle that reaches a theoretically drawn rook ending on move 54. Game 10 I press with white and reach a position that is slightly better for me, but slightly better. Against Kim's defense means a draw is the likely result, and it is. Score after 10 games. 6-4 by points. 2 wins for me, 2 wins for Kim. I need 1.5 from the final 4 games. Game 11. The preparation novelty Yamada and I built over 40 hours. I have white. Kim plays the Sicilian, his most familiar structure, and within 4 moves we're in the specific line where the novelty lives. B3 on move 12, exactly 91% likelihood. He plays B3, the novelty is on. Move 14, I offer the queen trade. It looks premature. Queen's coming off the board early. Transition into an endgame before the middle game has developed its full character. Kim looks at the position for 40 minutes. He is checking whether declining is possible. The answer is yes. Declining is possible, but it concedes the bishop pair in a slightly passive position that I can slowly improve. Taking means a specific endgame type where I've prepared deeply. He takes, we are in the endgame. Knights and rooks, pawn structure that slightly favors my pieces. 30 moves of technical work. Kim defends precisely, finds the best response on each move, holds the position close to even through move 46. On move 47, I find a maneuver I've had prepared since move 23, rook to h1, freeing the g-file, creating a passed pawn on g4 that he cannot stop without allowing my king to penetrate. It's not a combination, it's a long structural plan that becomes executable exactly here, exactly on move 47, and not before. He spends 20 minutes on move 48, he knows what's happening. He plays the best defensive try, I play the continuation. On move 61, his position is objectively losing. On move 63, he resigns. Score 7, 4.5. I need half a point. I need only a draw in game 12 to become world champion. Game 12, Kim has white. He needs a win to stay alive in the match. What follows is the best game Kim Jun-ho has ever played. He opens with e4, plays the Sicilian dragon with colors reversed, sets up the Yugoslav attack, the most violent system against the dragon, a direct assault on the black king that has been theoretically sharpened for 70 years. On move 20, he sacrifices the exchange, rook for knight to accelerate his kingside attack. On move 23, he launches 4 pawns up the kingside in a wave, each one supported, each one advancing on the next move. The position is objectively close to lost for me from move 25 onward. I can see this. The engine, if it were running, would show a significant advantage for white. The 4-pawn avalanche is too much material, moving too fast. I defend. Move 26. I find the only move that keeps the position alive, a counter-sacrifice, my queen for rook and pawn, that looks desperate and isn't. It opens my rook to the e-file and clears the 3rd rank for my king to escape. Move 29, Kim has the position he wants. His attack looks overwhelming. The queenside pieces are disconnected. If he plays g5 here, the game is over within 6 moves. He plays h5 instead. It's not a blunder in the ordinary sense. h5 is a good attacking move. It advances the pawn wave. It threatens g5 next. But g5 was the move that closed the king escape route immediately. h5 gives me one move, but one single move to reactivate my queen. I play qe3. The queen is back. The king escape is still open. The game continues. Move 37. Kim plays h6, pushing for mate. He has been playing with tremendous energy, the best chess of his career, and he is one tempo behind where he needs to be because of move 29. I play kh8. Exactly. The attack crests and cannot reach. We trade down to a rook ending on move 44, where material is equal and the draw is the correct result. Kim offers on move 51. I accept. The hall erupts. Score 7.5, 4.5 world champion. I sit for 1 second without moving. The noise is enormous, directional, coming from everywhere at once. I look at the board. The position is a drawn rook ending, kings in the center, pawns stable, completely equal. Same board, same pieces, different body. Only that. I stand. I extend my hand across the table to Kim Jun-ho. He looks at my hand. For a moment he is still, exactly still, the way a position is still in the moment before a combination fires. Then something in him breaks, not quickly. Slowly, the way a poorly defended position breaks. Move by move, each small thing failing until the structure collapses entirely. He hits my hand away with his forearm. He stands. His chair goes back. He hits the table with both palms and it tips. The board, the pieces, the clocks, everything goes over. Pieces scatter across the floor. The sound cuts through the applause, and the hall goes silent in an instant. Kim reaches across the overturned table toward me. He doesn't reach me. The security personnel are there before he can. 2 of them, between us, hands on his arms. He doesn't fight against them, not physically, but he's saying something in Korean that I can't hear over the ambient noise, and his face has lost every professional control it has maintained for 14 years of world-class competition. I stand on my side of the overturned table. I look at him. I think, there it is. The cracks I found in 412 games, the certainty that becomes more important than accuracy. The position where what he needs to be true and what is true diverge, and what he needs to be true wins. He couldn't accept that a 9-year-old beat him, couldn't make the adjustment that the position required. And in that failure, in that exact moment of choosing self-image over reality, he has just made things significantly easier for the people building a case against him. The security team guides Kim toward the exit. He goes, he doesn't look back. I look at the pieces on the floor. White king near the edge, black queen 2 feet away, knights scattered. I crouch down and pick up the white king, set it on the board, which is still lying on its side. Someone helps me write the table. 3 days before game 12, I sent a 4th letter, not to the general Interpol tip address, to the specific case contact, the agent who came to our apartment and left his card with Kenji. I used the same anonymous address, the same clean format, 1 page shorter than the others. It included the match schedule, the venue layout, the entry and exit points of the main hall, and a single additional line at the bottom. Arrest him after the final game. Not before. They waited. Kim comes through the backstage corridor from the playing hall with 2 security staff flanking him. Not restraining him? Not yet, simply present. He's composed on the surface, the professional control reasserting itself over whatever broke in the hall 30 seconds ago. His jacket is straight, his hands are at his sides. He walks the way a man walks when he is deciding how to handle what comes next. Two men are standing in the corridor. They have credentials. They show them. One of them speaks Korean, which Kim is hearing in his own language, which means there is no ambiguity about what is being said and no available misunderstanding to take refuge in. Kim listens. His face does not change. His hands remain at his sides. He looks in that moment exactly like someone who has known this was coming and has spent time deciding how to receive it. Not surprised, not panicked. The cold calculation that has characterized his entire career applied now to a situation from which no calculation offers an exit. He says something. One of the agents responds. Kim nods, once, and goes with them. I watch this from 30 feet down the corridor. The shape of the scheme, as Interpol reconstructed it through payment records and the documents the third letter pointed them toward, is simpler than it appeared from outside. Kim Jun-ho was not the architect. Klaus Hartmann, the Austrian financial consultant, built and ran the structure, an illegal sports betting network operating through 3 jurisdictions, placing large positions on chess tournament outcomes through platforms that don't examine the source of funds closely. The network had intermediaries at multiple major events. Takashima was one layer. The Vienna and Singapore organizers were others. Kim was a participant, not a principal. He placed bets. And when results threatened his positions, passed signals through intermediaries he never contacted directly. The payment chains are documented. The chain from Kim to the intermediary who contracted the shooter on Balzacstrasse is 4 links long, each link documented through financial records, each link confirmed through a combination of the offshore disclosure materials and the evidence from Vienna's security footage. The corridor footage from Singapore, it turned out, was also recoverable. Kiroyu Tanaka won the Vienna tournament when he should, according to Kim's financial position, have lost. Kim lost money he had placed against himself winning, an arrangement so specific in its self-sabotage that the investigators say it is actually uncommon, the kind of bet that only makes sense if you have certainty about the result in advance. Certainty he didn't have, because I didn't lose. 2 days after Vienna, Balzacstrasse, 1432. I know this part already. I was there. Kim is 40 feet away now. The 2 agents and the security staff are moving together toward the building exit. Before they reach the turn in the corridor, Kim stops walking. He turns, he looks back down the corridor and finds me immediately. I'm the only person standing still in the space. Everyone else is moving, press and officials and players spilling from the hall into the adjacent areas. But I'm standing against the wall 30 feet away, and I'm not moving. We look at each other. I have thought about this moment, not obsessively, I don't operate that way, but I have considered it, in the way I consider endgame positions. What does this moment mean? What does it require? What is the correct response to it? Kim's eyes hold something I didn't expect. Not the rage from the playing hall, not the contempt from press conferences, something quieter. He is looking at a 9-year-old boy standing alone in a building corridor, and something in his expression says he has understood that this is not a coincidence. That this child specifically is connected to this moment in a way he cannot name. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He knows that he should. I look back at him, checkmate. Not said aloud. No drama in it. Just the recognition of a position that has resolved. The agents guide him around the corner, and he goes, and the corridor is loud again with everyone else filling the space. Kenji finds me 3 minutes later. He doesn't say anything. He comes down the corridor and he puts his arms around me and holds on firmly, the way he holds things he doesn't want to let go of, which is the way he has held everything connected to me since the Saturday with Daisuke and the chess set 6 years ago. He holds on for a long time, and I stand in it and let him. First time I reached the top alone. No one who knew what I was doing, no one who understood what was at stake, just the board, and the position, and the work. I won. I walked out of the venue, and 3 days later, someone shot me in the street and none of it mattered. Second time, Kenji, who left his job and learned chess notation to understand what his son was doing. Yamada, who recognized something in a night maneuver and needed to be closer to it to know what it was. Ogata, who comes to the park in Ueno every weekend and loses every game and brings 2 thermoses. Mizuki, who shook my hand like an adult when she was 8 and lost and who was right about the bishop. I don't know which way is better. I think I know which way I would choose. I lift my head from Kenji's shoulder. The main lobby is lit. Cameras, journalists, the official press area where someone is setting up a podium for the post-match statement. The flood of people from the hall is sorting itself into the organized chaos of a major sporting result being processed by the world's media infrastructure. Someone has a sign, a 9-year-old holding it up in the press section. The handwriting obviously their own, which makes it real in the way professional signs aren't. Yamada appears beside Kenji. He looks at me for a moment with the expression he uses when there are things he has decided not to ask and has accepted not knowing. Then ready? Yes. The press statement is in 10 minutes. Nakamura wants you at the podium. Okay. He nods. He starts toward the lobby. Then he stops and looks back. Move 14, he says. The queen trade in game 11. You saw the endgame from there? Move 9, I say, when I chose the system. He looks at me for a long moment. Then he turns and walks into the lobby. I stay in the corridor for one more moment. Along the wall near the lobby entrance, there is a display case, decorative, the kind that venues put in prominent spaces. Inside it, a chess set. Tournament quality pieces on a demonstration board, position set to the starting arrangement, all pieces in their places. Clean position, nothing committed. White moves first. Always white moves first. The first move is always white's. I look at the board in the case, 9 years old. World champion. The people who killed me the first time are being processed through a legal system that will handle them correctly because I spent 2 years moving pieces quietly into position and letting the board develop. 2 lines resolved, 1 board cleared. All right, what's next? I walk into the lobby.